The story begins with Yaoshin thinking that he's lonelier than a Discord moderator without his e-kittens, and that all his classmates make plans without even taking him into consideration. But on the good side, he doesn't get bullied by them. Apparently, Yaoshin is an introvert and has nothing in common with those who actually have lives. As always, his classmates try to invite the downright baddie of their class named Nanami. But her friends help her make an excuse, causing Nanami to take a sigh of relief, while all Yaoshin thinks of is how he was neglected once again. As he is about to leave school, Yaoshin begins thinking of their plans and notices that he forgot his pencil case in the classroom. On the other hand, Nanami and her friends are playing games in the class, and when she loses, her friends order her to confess to a boy and go out with him for a month as a punishment. At the same time, Yaoshin, who is in class, ends up hearing this conversation when all he wanted to do was retrieve his pencil case. Meanwhile, Nanami begins arguing that this kind of punishment is unacceptable, and Yaoshin decides to head back home. Nanami's friend mentions that she just doesn't want to accept the punishment, to which she replies that playing with people's feelings in such a way is messed up. She further adds that confessing is something that should be taken more seriously. This makes her friend remind Nanami that she has never had a boyfriend, even though she's the one who had the most confession of any of them. Nanami lets her know that they all confess to her while looking at her mommy milkers. Yaoshin gets surprised to find out that Nanami has never dated anyone and wonders if this is the reason she sighed earlier. Nanami's friend further pressures her, saying that she might be attacked by some weirdo at this rate, and that even if they break up, that boy will surely tell stories about her honkers for generations to come. This conversation makes Yaoshin think that if someone were to date an impregnable girl like Nanami, he'd get a lot of envious gazes. As her friends continue to pressure her, Nanami ends up accepting the punishment and gets told to declare her feelings to Yaoshin. Little do they know that Yaoshin ends up hearing everything, and after Nanami agrees to give it a try, he starts breaking into a cold sweat. When Nanami asks about how she should confess, her friends advise her to invite him to the back of the school. That night, Yaoshin picks up his phone, and knowing that he doesn't have any friends in real life, he decides to count on his online friends. With that being said, he leaves a message in the group chat, asking his friend Baron. Surprisingly, Baron tells Yaoshin to accept her feelings and go on a date with her, as this is a great chance for him to get used to girls. However, his other friend named Peach tells him to turn Nanami down. But Baron argues that a guy who turned down a popular girl is worse than a guy who gets dumped by her in the eyes of people. Baron further mentions that he should see this as a chance, as during the 1 month time he'd be dating Nanami, he should make her fall in love with him. And if he succeeds, he will have the choice to break up afterward or continue dating her. Yaoshin questions Baron if he's eagerly anticipating this stuff, to which he agrees, asking Yaoshin to keep him updated. The next day at school, Nanami asks Yaoshin if he can spare her sometime after school, and he hesitantly agrees. He then begins thinking about Nanami, about her being a gal type who makes sure to unbutton her collar, so her milk valley is always on display. Her friendly personality makes every boy think that she likes them, and the number of misunderstood men continues to grow. Yaoshin then wonders if someone like him declined her confession, how many people would be hostile towards him. Furthermore, he thinks about how her appearance can be deceiving and realizes that he's easily tempted by her as well. After classes end, the two of them finally meet on the backside of their school, and Nanami asks Yaoshin if he has any idea what she's about to say. Yaoshin lets her know that he has no idea, and if she wants to take his money, he doesn't have any. This statement kind of annoys her, but Nanami locks in nonetheless and prepares herself to finally confess. Yaoshin remembers Baron's advice to not stare at her melons, but to look up instead. However, as soon as he looks up, he notices a student about to throw water out the window, and at the same time, Nanami ends up confessing. Without thinking much, he dashes towards her, grabs her shoulder and pushes her away, only to end up falling on top of Nanami. As expected, she freaks out and starts yelling, but stops when she sees him getting drenched, followed by the bucket falling on his head, knocking Yaoshin unconscious. Later that day, Yaoshin wakes up and finds himself in the nurse's office. At first, he wonders why he is in a place like this, but ends up remembering everything from him wanting to cover her and something heavy falling on him from above. Just then, Nanami appears, saying that she's glad Yaoshin's awake. Yaoshin begins apologizing to her for making her bring him to the infirmary, but Nanami tells him not to worry about her and asks if his injuries are okay. Yaoshin lets her know that there's nothing to be concerned about and reassures her that he's perfectly fine. Nanami seems relieved after hearing this, and when Yaoshin asks if she is okay, Nanami agrees, saying that it's all thanks to him. Following that, Yaoshin gets up, telling Nanami that he's relieved that she wasn't hurt, causing Nanami to become beet red, and tells Yaoshin to go back to bed. Yaoshin also notices that his hairy chest is on display and pulls the blanket over his body. Afterward, Nanami compliments him for having an athletic body and reassures him that she didn't mean to ogle at his abs. Before long, the nurse arrives and lets them know that this is not a place to get freaky. Following that, she gives him a fresh uniform, telling Nanami to wait outside while he changes. The nurse then tells Yaoshin to be grateful to Nanami, as she has been looking after him since he was brought to the infirmary. After he's all dripped up, Nanami once again asks if he's okay, to which he agrees, thanking her for the help. Nanami also thanks him for keeping her safe and asks for his answer to her confession. Yaoshin remembers that he rushed to save her before answering, and remembers Baron's advice once again to look into her eyes. With that being said, he agrees to date her, which comes as a shock to Nanami, who at first couldn't believe it and fails to hide her excitement afterward. Furthermore, she asks Yaoshin to call her by her first name, as they are a couple now, deciding to call him by his first name as well. Even though Yaoshin doesn't feel comfortable addressing girls by their first name, he agrees and calls her name while extending his hand. Nanami shakes his hand and calls him by his first name with a big smile on her face. Even though Yaoshin is lost in that smile of hers, he forces himself to remember that this is only a penalty for her game. Following that, he lets her know that it's a pleasure to go out with her, to which she agrees. But the two of them get interrupted by the school nurse, who congratulates the two of them, freaking both Yaoshin and Nanami out. Furthermore, she advises them to stick to an appropriate relationship and always use the highest quality rubber. Nanami gets flustered hearing this, while Yaoshin questions the nurse why she's talking like this out of the blue. She replies that the two of them need proper education, as their hormones might take over, and she might end up popping out a baby or two. With that being said, the two of them are on their way home together, but are too nervous to say anything. Yaoshin begins to wonder what he is supposed to talk about when he goes home together with a girl and ultimately begins conversing about the weather. However, Nanami stays silent, making Yaoshin realize that she might be nervous as well. Eventually, she speaks out and suggests exchanging contact information. Yaoshin agrees to do so, but tells Nanami that he doesn't use those apps for obvious reasons, telling her that he only downloaded them to follow official game accounts and get free items. This causes Nanami to smirk, causing him to wonder if he said something funny, but the reason Nanami seems happy is because she's his first contact. Additionally, she wonders if he knows how to add new contacts, and after taking a while to figure it out, he manages to add her number. Additionally, Yaoshin thought that she wouldn't be up for exchanging numbers, as this is only a dare, and thinks how he doesn't understand women at all. Before long, they arrive at the station and realize that they have to go opposite sides. After saying goodbye, Nanami leaves, while all Yaoshin can think of is that she seemed a little sad despite the smile on her face. As soon as he reaches home, Yaoshin instantly opens his Pentium PC and explains everything that happened to Baron and Peach. Baron questions if he's destined to be a superhero, but Yaoshin replies that he had a hard time, which made him realize that he should ask for his advice. Baron lets him know that he doesn't approve of Yaoshin relying on him, and tells Yaoshin to ask Nanami about the things she likes when he has nothing to talk about. However, Peach seems furious about the whole thing and mentions that this will never go well, asking Yaoshin to break up before he gets hurt. Baron mentions that he just started dating, so they need to see what happens next, and suggests setting up a goal for this week. The goal Baron sets is for Yaoshin to hold Nanami's hand by the end of the week. Yaoshin questions if a handshake counts, but Baron wants him to hold her hand too and from school. As he starts stressing over this situation, Yaoshin receives a message from Nanami. This comes as a shock to him, as he didn't expect to get a message from her on the first day. Turns out she wants to walk to school together from tomorrow, asking if he's up for meeting at the train station at 7:30 in the morning. As expected, the Virgin begins freaking out and wonders how he should respond. Deciding not to overcomplicate things, he ends up going straight to the point and agrees to meet up at 7:30. However, Yaoshin then begins thinking that his reply might be extremely stiff and wonders what she will think of it. Luckily, she gives him a normal reply, causing Yaoshin to get excited and tell Baron about it. He advises Yaoshin to go to the station 30 minutes before the meeting time, telling him that he surely wants to see his girlfriend as soon as possible. This makes Yaoshin realize that she really is his girlfriend, even if it's for a month. Baron further tells Yaoshin to put her first if he needs her to like him, which makes Yaoshin think if he can prioritize her over his AI waifu, and decides not to whine about it, as there's no turning back. With that being said, he turns off his PC and begins thinking about how he will be going to school with Nanami tomorrow, completely unaware that she is doing the same thing as well. The next day, Yaoshin arrives at the train station 1 hour before the meetup time to make sure that he doesn't make his girlfriend wait. But to his surprise, Nanami is already present there, which makes Yaoshin wonder if he got the wrong time. Nonetheless, he calls out her name and asks if he made her wait, to which Nanami replies that he's earlier than she expected. With that being said, she greets him by saying good morning with a big smile on her face, making Yaoshin remember that she is the girl who confessed to him. But he is also aware that it's only a punishment and that he shouldn't forget it. Following that, they both start walking towards the school together, and when Nanami asks the reason he came to the meetup spot so early, Yaoshin lets her know that he was nervous because he was meeting a girl for the first time. However, Nanami is glad, as thanks to that, they were able to see each other quicker. Afterward, Yaoshin notices that Nanami has braided her hair and figures that he has seen that hairstyle somewhere. Furthermore, he remembers Baron's advice to compliment Nanami, no matter how small of a change she makes. Therefore, he hesitantly lets her know that braided hair looks good on her. This comes as a surprise to her, and after asking if he really means it, Nanami thanks him, saying that she's happy to hear that. Apparently, she wanted to try this hairstyle for her, and when Yaoshin questions how is it for him, Nanami shows him his display picture, saying that it's the same hairstyle as this character. She then asks if he likes that kind of hairstyle. Yaoshin freaks out, knowing that his freakiness has been exposed. He then tries to reassure her that he has other interests as well, but she replies that it's okay to like it, and once again asks if her hairstyle looks cute. This time, Yaoshin lets her know that she looks really cute, and she once again thanks him. Following that, Yaoshin gets proud of himself for calling her cute on the perfect day. Soon after, Nanami suggests holding hands on the way, which shocks Yaoshin, causing Nanami to think that he doesn't want to. But Yaoshin lets her know that he does, and after wiping his slimy hands, he ends up grabbing Nanami's hand. However, Nanami begins laughing and tells him that he's doing a handshake. Following that, the two of them manage to hold hands the correct way. Every single student walking to school starts staring at the two of them. Nanami lets Yaoshin know that everyone is talking about them, and Yaoshin replies that they must be feeling sorry for Nanami for holding hands with a bottom-tier character. But Nanami doesn't appreciate this comment and tells Yaoshin that it's not the reaction she wanted. Additionally, she reminds him that he is her boyfriend, and that he looked really cool yesterday. While Yaoshin begins to wonder if she's supposed to go this far for a punishment, Nanami suggests having a relationship on an equal footing. Ultimately, he apologizes to Nanami, and she does the same. Yaoshin then starts to think about what kind of face Nanami would make if he told her that he knew about the punishment and ended up poking her cheeks. Nanami looks at him in shock and gets beet red, which causes Yaoshin to panic as well. He then asks if it was unpleasant, but Nanami replies that he startled him. Before long, they enter the classroom, holding hands. Nanami instantly gets surrounded by her friends who begin congratulating her, which confuses Yaoshin as they were the ones who came up with the punishment. Just then, their other classmates began asking why she was together with Yaoshin. This makes Nanami hold Yaoshin's arm once again and reveal that she confessed to Yaoshin yesterday. Everyone gets shocked, but Nanami's friend makes them go away. Yaoshin thanks both Hatsumi and Ayami, which enrages Nanami, who asks Yaoshin why he's calling them by their first names when he called her by her family name. Hatsumi mentions that he most likely doesn't know their family names and properly introduces herself. Yaoshin then apologizes for calling them by their names, while Hatsumi reminds Nanami that she has something to tell him. She then comes up to Yaoshin and asks if he has planned anything for lunch. Following that, she reveals the two-person bento she made, asking if he'd like to eat it together. Later during lunchtime, the two of them meet up at the rooftop to eat lunch together, and Yaoshin thanks her for going through all this trouble. Furthermore, he notices that everyone is staring at them and figures that he has to deal with it. Ultimately, he takes a bite of the lunch she made and compliments the taste. Nanami informs him that the onigiri are small because her hands are pretty small, reminding Yaoshin that she made those onigiri for him using her fingers. After they are done eating, Yaoshin once again praises her cooking, to which Nanami replies that this bento was pretty basic. Suddenly, his stomach begins growling, which makes Nanami apologize, saying that her bento must not be enough for a boy. To fill his black hole of a stomach, she tries hand-feeding some of her lunch, and after hesitating for a moment, Yaoshin ends up taking a bite. Nanami then mentions that she often does this with Hatsumi and the others. Furthermore, she suggests going to buy a bento after school as he couldn't eat his fill, calling it an after-school date. After school ends, they both get ready to go buy a bento box for Yaoshin. Nanami notices that Yaoshin looks a bit down, and she wonders if he doesn't want to hold hands with a person like her. However, Yaoshin reassures her that she's mistaken, and that someone like him is lucky to even touch a fine maiden like her. When Nanami asks if he's not forcing himself, Yaoshin lets her know that he doesn't need to force himself, causing Nanami to smile brightly. Afterward, they arrive at the mall where Nanami picks a bento with flowers on it. But Yaoshin mentions that it's a bit too cute for him, and begins searching for another bento when out of nowhere, Nanami comments on them looking like newlyweds. Surprised, Yaoshin mentions that he thought so too, and Nanami replies that he doesn't need to force himself to agree. Yaoshin then tells her that he is pretty happy to hear that, making Nanami fluster and hit him while calling him a tease. Ultimately, he ends up picking a bento box that he likes, but Nanami instantly snatches it from him and decides to go buy it. However, Yaoshin stops her as he wants to pay, considering that he will be the one using the bento box. But Nanami straight up disagrees, letting him know she wants to do something for the one she loves, and that there's no reason for her to let Yaoshin pay. Yaoshin argues, asking her to at least let him pay for the bento box, as he doesn't want to look like a gold digger. In the end, Nanami agrees and returns him the bento box. After paying for it, he once again gives it back to Nanami, who mentions that it now feels like a present, catching Yaoshin by surprise, who tells Nanami that he will be in her care tomorrow. On their way home, Nanami asks about the food he wants her to put in the bento, and when he chooses a hamburger, she questions if he eats peppers. Yaoshin replies that he's too much of a wimp to eat spicy food. Nanami mentions that he will be eating them anyway as it's her cooking, later telling him that she's just joking. But Yaoshin reassures her that if it's her cooking, he will eat anything, causing Nanami to crack up. After returning home, Yaoshin once again gets on the game and tells everything that happened to Baron and Peach. Additionally, he mentions that Nanami promised to call him tonight, but he still wasn't able to tell her about the punishment game. But Baron mentions that she clearly doesn't care about the punishment game anymore, and says that he didn't think he'd be able to go to school with Nanami, holding hands the same week. Yaoshin comments that the punishment game was for her to get used to guys and wonders if she's using him as a simulation. Baron further tells Yaoshin that he thought Nanami would surely tell him not to get carried away as she was forced to go out with him, making Yaoshin tell him that she's not like that. This makes Baron realize that Yaoshin is already down bad for her and almost gets hit by an attack that Peach makes in-game, later telling Yaoshin that Nanami is just toying with him and he better break up with her. Baron tells Peach not to worry about it too much and asks Yaoshin if he will give her his thanks for the meal. Yaoshin replies that even though he thanked her, he still wanted to pay for the materials she'll be putting, but Nanami refused. Baron then suggests giving her sweets to return the favor, which is something Yaoshin seems to like, and mentions how pathetic it is to realize this after being told by someone else. Baron then gets an idea for his next objective and tells Yaoshin to ask her on a date. This freaks him out, as asking a girl on a date is almost impossible for someone who had zero female interaction before Nanami. Baron tells him not to stress out and just take her to see a movie for something. Yaoshin also realizes that they are not really equal in this relationship and wants to be equal, considering it's for a punishment game. Additionally, Baron advises him to ask for her hobbies, as he can use it as a reference when picking a movie. Ultimately, Yaoshin decides to complete this objective and gets to ask her when she'll call her at night. Before long, he receives a call from Nanami, who apologizes for calling at such an hour. Furthermore, she wonders if she said anything weird, as it was her first time going out with a boy. But Yaoshin reassures her that he enjoyed everything they did while getting turned on at the same time. Nanami further says that he seemed pretty calm as compared to her, who was going around in circles. But Yaoshin lets her know that's not the case and mentions that he was even thinking of thanking her. With that being said, he ends up inviting her to go to the movies this Saturday, only to be told that she already promised to watch a movie with Hatsumi and the others. This statement brings the poor lad to his knees, but even though he is feeling crushed right now, Yaoshin doesn't give up and asks if she's free on Sunday. Nanami replies that she should be putting more effort when making his bento and agrees to go out with him this Sunday. Yaoshin lets out a creepy smile, saying that he can't wait to hear about what she likes tomorrow, unaware that Nanami is even more flustered than he could imagine. After the call ends, Nanami realizes that she's not very good at talking to boys, as her heartbeat was going crazy all the way through. She then begins rolling around in excitement, realizing that she's going to be all fluffy tomorrow. Furthermore, she begins thinking how Yaoshin not only arrived early to meet up with her, but also complimented her hairstyle and called her cute. She then thinks about everyone's reaction to her dating Yaoshin, and her being nervous while giving him the bento, as Nanami wasn't sure if he'll enjoy the things she cooked. The things that happened during lunch start appearing in her mind, which makes her regret everything she did, as attracting everyone's attention is really embarrassing. Nanami then wonders if hand-feeding him counts as an indirect kiss, and realizing that she just noticed it, Nanami gets even more embarrassed. However, she is aware that sooner or later they might end up locking lips with each other, but figures that it's impossible, as an indirect kiss is already too embarrassing for her. They have been together for barely 2 days, which makes her think about what things they might do tomorrow, but decides to distract herself by preparing his bento. Later in the kitchen, Nanami decides to give it her all and starts preparing the ingredients. While making the bento, she thinks that Yaoshin is normally quiet at school, but can be unexpectedly proactive at times. Even though he easily gets flustered, Yaoshin didn't give up when she told him that she was busy on Saturday. She didn't expect him to invite her on Sunday instead, as he's not the type to do such a thing, which makes her even more happy. She further thinks about how she wants to talk to him about a lot of things and wants to know him even better. Additionally, she wants him to eat her freshly made cooking as well, and just thinking about her going to his house someday makes her nervous. She is aware that if they kept going out, there would be a lot of things for them to do, like showing off those 2 cannonballs on her chest, going to some kind of festival together, spending Halloween, Christmas, and Valentine together. There are many things she'd like to try, and knows that a month is too short for her to make things progress. Nanami is aware that Hatsumi told her to keep going out with the boy while she's getting used to it, and even though she was really anxious at first, now she'd like to give it a try. Apparently, Hatsumi told Nanami that she's easy to deal with, so they wanted her to go out with a virgin like Yaoshin instead of a playboy. This makes Nanami wonder if she's really that easy, and starts thinking that if Yaoshin even finds out that she confessed to him because of a punishment game, he'll start hating her. Nonetheless, she is aware that she is always thinking about Yaoshin, and as she doesn't want him to be depressed, she needs to keep changing things regularly. However, as Yaoshin isn't here, she can't really get his opinion, so there is only one thing left for her to do. That is to try her best and make Yaoshin fall deeply in love with him. She plans on getting him using his stomach and ultimately kiss him someday. As expected, she gets embarrassed by the thought of kissing once again and decides to be ready for it at least. Furthermore, she is now starting to think that Yaoshin might forgive her, even if he finds out about the punishment game. Before that happens, Nanami wants to make him completely fall in love with her. As she doesn't have the courage to reveal the truth just yet, she was to at least put her all into tomorrow's bento. The next day, Yaoshin arrives at the meetup spot 30 minutes early and figures that Nanami doesn't have to wait this way. Just then, someone pokes his cheek, and that person turns out to be Nanami, who was already waiting for him. He lets her know that she surprised him, to which Nanami replies that he surprised her yesterday, and with this, they are now even. Yaoshin then mentions that she's pretty early, to which Nanami replies that she came early because she wanted to see Yaoshin apologize for being late. Following that, he notices that she had ponytails today, and lets her know that this hairstyle looks great on her, and manages to call her cute once again. Nanami thanks him and shows her gratitude by letting him hold her hand and eat the bento she made. Elsewhere, at school, all the desperate girls are gathered around a boy, offering him water and stuff. He then notices Yaoshin walking with Nanami while holding hands, making him squeeze the water bottle in anger. But when the ladies ask if something is wrong, he dismisses it. While the two of them put their shoes in the locker, Yaoshin apologizes for calling her without giving a proper heads up even though she isn't really used to boys. He further mentions that he was so excited about Sunday's date that he ended up calling her yesterday. Nanami agrees, saying that she's still not used to them.